Don't tell the FAA, but it's possible to fly more than one quadcopter at the same time with the same controller. And I say don't tell the FAA because they don't actually want you to do that. But I've got 3 brand new quadcopters I just finished building, and they need a hover check and a failsafe check and a maiden flight. And I ain't got time to do that one at a time. So today, we're breaking the law. I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're gonna learn something today. What I'm about to show you is something that racers have known about for a long time, because racers commonly build huge numbers of quadcopters for big races, and then they need to test them all, and they don't want to test them one at a time. And I'm going to demonstrate this with Express ELRS, but I want you to know that no matter what control link you use, this probably will work. There are very few control links that don't do this thing that I'm going to bet most of you don't know about. So here's quadcopter number 1. We're gonna plug it in, and we have link here on the radio, and if I arm, it arms and disarms as normal. Now, these other Express ELRS receivers in these other 2 quads have also been flashed with the same binding phrase, so they are also bound to the radio. What do you think will happen if I plug them in right now? Well, I've kind of given it away in the concept of this video. What you might think would happen would be that only this first one would work, but that's not true. Turtle mode. Yup, turtle mode, looking good. And my telemetry's freaking out. You can't hear this right now, but my telemetry's freaking out because what's happening here is that all of these receivers are receiving the signal from this module at the same time, and they are all responding to it. And they are all also sending telemetry data back, but because there are 3 telemetry transmitters at the same time, they're all interfering with each other, and the telemetry is getting corrupted. But there is only one control transmitter, and all 3 of them are receiving perfectly valid good signal from it, and that means that we can do our failsafe check right now by powering down the radio on all of them at once. How nice. Are you freaking out a little bit right now? I kind of am. Because with FreeSky, FlySky, Spectrum, Crossfire, and Ghost, the way that you bind the receiver is to literally press a physical button on the receiver and then enter a menu option or press a button on the module, and then you're bound. And there's really no way that somebody is gonna be able to do that without you knowing about it, unless they stole your quad or something. But with Express ELRS, you flash a bind phrase to the module and to the receiver, and that's how they know they're bound. And this is cool because if you're like a YouTuber like me and you have 5 different radios, one of which is your daily driver and 4 of which you're testing for a review, then you could just flash them all to the same bind phrase, and then they all bind to all of your quads and life is easy. But it also means that if somebody else knows your bind phrase, could they flash your bind phrase to their radio and override your communication? The answer to that question is no. Sort of. Mostly. Maybe. You see, when the Express ELRS receiver first powers up, it looks for the transmitter that has its matching bind phrase, and then they get onto a sort of a sync pattern. And once they're synced up, if a second module turns on, it won't be on the same sync pattern and the receiver will never see it. So in order for someone to do this, they'd have to know your bind phrase, flash their module with your bind phrase, and then already be powered up at the time that you plug in. And then your radio would have to be off, because typically the receiver will lock onto the strongest module that it sees, which will probably be you, because yours is probably closer. But in theory, if someone knew your bind phrase and you plugged your quad in without your radio turned on, your receiver would bind to their radio and then they would have control of your quad. And yeah, that could be bad. So maybe keep your bind phrase kind of secret. Now here comes the part where I potentially piss off the FAA. And an FAA violation starts at $1,500 and goes up. So the way I'm going to piss off the FAA is that it is against FAA regulations to pilot more than one SUAS drone at the same time. I will be the pilot in command of the operation, and I will also be the person operating the controls of the drone. And a given, I think it's the pilot in command, cannot be the PIC for more than one operation at a time. And I'm about to fly all three of these guys at the same time. But here's why I think it's gonna be okay. Because the FAA also cares about education. And right now, I am educating you guys that this is actually not okay to do. Did you know that per FAA regulations, it is not, well, not legal isn't the right thing to do because it's a regulation, not a law, so it's a civil infraction. But the FAA doesn't allow you, Part 107, recreational, doesn't matter. You are not allowed to operate more than one drone at a time without a waiver. Do you feel educated about safety right now? Cool. Now I'm gonna do it. The other way that I am hopefully going to avoid getting in trouble with the FAA is I am not going to do this with my big 5-inch racing drones. Let me just be honest with you. This is going to be a disaster. This is a gimmick. This is not actually how you hover test. I'm going to do it with these little Flywoo Baby 2S nano quadcopters. And I figure, how could the FAA get mad at me for this? These things, they're harmless, right? Arming in 3, 2, 1. All of them are armed. Let's do our basic check. Turn right. Okay. One of them flipped out. Arming. Turn right. Pitch forward and back. Looking good. The one that's flipping out is the analog one. It's lighter than the other three because it's got a smaller video transmitter, and so it's kind of freaking out. Let's hover test, obviously. 3, 2, 1. It's mayhem. They're just all, you can't, I'm gonna try one more time. You can't fly them all at once though. It's silly. Think about what happens when you take off. You level the quad and then you lift off, and you can't level all these guys at once. I mean, oh, what if I put them in auto level mode? Let's do it in angle mode. Then they'll all level out by themselves. Maybe then it'll be flyable. It's not gonna be flyable. 3, 2, 1. Oh, did you see him level out? Oh, no. The hover position is too different. One of them was barely lifting off. The other one was taken off to the moon probably because of the weight difference between them. If you were really serious about this, you would need to add some weight to them to make them the same weight. And then it might work. Okay, check this out. Now I have added blue tack to them so they are all the same weight, 0.0 grams difference between them. I don't know what's gonna happen. Auto level mode. Here we go. Well, this is way better. Well, that went way better than the last time. I mean, last time they all crashed and went out of control after 1 second, and now they lasted 5 or 10 seconds. I wonder why they were climbing at a different rate than each other though. The weights were the same. Maybe the motor KV is different. So some of them make more thrust than the other. There's always some variance in motor KV. So if you were to carefully fine tune the weight so they hover at exactly the same throttle position. And then if you were to, instead of doing it here at my house, get a big open field where you could really climb up into the air and not have obstacles to hit. And then you could, no, you wouldn't do that. That would be bad because that would be violating the FAA rules by controlling more than one craft at a time, and you would get fined $1,500 by the FAA or more, and we will never speak of this again, right? We're not going to speak of this again, right? You're not going to report this video to the FAA, are you? It's education. That makes it okay, right? If I do get fined by the FAA, the money that I use to pay the fine will come from my patrons. Patreon is a website where you can subscribe to me for as little as $2 a month or more if you feel like I've earned it. The amount that you subscribe at is totally up to you, and you can stop whenever you want. Doing a job like this full-time costs money. I just bought 4 of these Flywound Nano quadcopters to use in a shootout video where I'm comparing all 4 of the main video systems, analog, DJI, Walksnail, and HC0 in the exact same quad. Cost me about $500. Patrons made that possible. I give away all of my content for free for everyone to benefit from and enjoy, and I'm going to keep doing that. And I just hope that for some of you, today will be the day that you go, yeah, okay, I'm gonna give back. I'm gonna join up. If that day is today, there's a link down in the video description below. As well, I'm gonna put a card on screen this time that you can click on. If the thing you're watching on supports cards, the card will appear right here. You can head on over to Patreon and join up at whatever level you feel is appropriate. And if today's not that day, no hard feelings. I'm gonna keep making the content. Maybe that day will come. Happy flying.